Om
Parthamaya Pratibodhita Bhagavata Ramayana Swayam Sena Gratita Purana Advaita Pratavashini Bhagavati Shtada Sadhyayini Advaita Sampradani Bhagavati Gita Purveshini.
Verse 21. Learn that word. Shankara says Sangedanitana.
Ama. Yeah. Anything talks ketala?
இல்லை இன்னைக்கு கேட்க முடியல.
நாங்கள் லேட்டாக கேட்குறோம் ஆக்சுவலி ஒரு நாள் 2 நாள் கழிச்சு.
Last time பண்ணாங்க. Next morning I heard.
Yeah, very much similar to this talk. Fortunately, he is also concluding. Yeah, good.
Verse 21, desire, anger and greed.
No, that Shankara before the 2 paragraphs.
Shankara says.
Shankara says there is no suspicion or a doubt that they do not gain as Ishvara.
Volume is low.
Volume low.
ஒரே நிமிஷம் சாமி. Yeah, Shankara says there is no suspicion or a doubt that they do not gain Ishvara. I hope it's okay now.
No, it has gone again slow. Very low volume.
இங்க பாருங்க.
100%. நீங்கள் வால்யூம் கொஞ்சம் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. ஃபுல் வால்யூம் 100% இருக்கு.
Even able to hear this way.
Yeah.
When we talk, can you hear?
I can hear. I don't know whether the recording whether it is because it's very low.
Very low. Oh.
Yeah.
Recording no problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Is far out of reach for these people. First they have to begin to follow dharma, which is enjoined by Ishvara and found in the Veda. At this point, they are lost in other ways, and in order to create a distraction towards such tendencies, Krishna says they go to a still worse end, Tadaha Adamam Gatim Yanti. These are the general features of an asura's nature. Though among them, there are many differences in their manifest behavior. One might be predominantly cruel, another more disruptive, but all of them have 3 basic things. All of the manifold manifestations of an asuri disposition can be avoided if these things are taken care of. They are the root cause of all that is undesirable, anartha. Krishna enumerates them in the next verse and asks one to avoid them.
Yeah.
Desire, anger and greed, a threefold doorway to Naraga. त्रिविधं नरगस्येदं द्वारं नाशनमात्मनः कामक्रोधस्तथा लोभः तस्मादेतत्रयं त्यजेत्. Now there is a lot of disturbance noise.
From me, let me reduce the fan a bit.
Now it is
Is it
okay.
better?
Now it is good.
Fan was on full throttle.
Okay, right. So Trividam, threefold, Narakasya, of painful experience, Idam Dwaram, this doorway, Atmanaha Nafana, which is the destroyer of oneself. Kamaha, desire, Krodhaha, anger, Tata, Lobhaha, so too greed. Tasmat, therefore, Etat Trayam, this triad, Tijet, one should give up. This doorway to painful experience that destroys the person is threefold: desire, anger, and greed. Therefore, one should give up this triad. Naraka is any experience of pain. One can enter it through any one of these three doors. Dwara. All of which are the destroyer of a person. Atmanaha, Nafana. Shankara says that just entering into this gate, you will find you are destroyed. It is like stepping into a trap. It swallows you up immediately. As an animal is caught in a trap by baiting it with what it takes, what it likes, a human being is caught and destroyed by these three things. He is destroyed in the sense that his mind is so disturbed that he is no longer fit for any purushartha. Leave alone moksha, even the simple sukha that he had hoped to get is lost because of these three. Microphone, no problem. Kama, a binding desire or longing for something, is what makes you enter into the trap.
Can Swamiji, you are able to hear us clearly?
Yeah.
No disruption in music or anything?
No.
Okay.
This is their anger, krodha, and greed, lobha, necessarily follow. Conversely, if you can manage kama, passion, then anger and greed are automatically taken care of. If you are able to take care of your anger, you will find that kama can be contained. You will deal with it effectively. Greed is mentioned lastly because when there is greed, anger is unavoidable. But if greed is taken care of, anger can be taken care of. And later the kama too. It is important to discern where greed begins and the simple binding desire ends. A desire is binding if its non-fulfillment makes you angry. You have to discover where the greed begins. If there is something that you do not need, that you can manage easily without, and you want it anyway, that is greed. In fulfilling a desire, if you cross the ways of dharma, that desire itself becomes greed.
All three of these, desire, anger and greed, are portals to painful experiences and therefore the cause for self-destruction. Atmanaha Nashanam. No intelligent person wants to get destroyed, so naturally you should give up these three. Etat Trayam Tejas. If you can manage these, the rest of the Asuri Sampad will be taken care of. The description of the Asuri Sampad is given in such detail here that it may seem overwhelming, and therefore Krishna reduces the whole thing to Kama, Krodha and Lobha. Even these three can be reduced to kama because in the final analysis, it is the root cause of all anarthas. Anarthas na na?
Anarthas means not useful. Basically, artha means useful, anartha means not useful.
I have to give them up, but how? They are not something I can give up, they are me. Therefore, I require prayer, certain disciplines, and also inquiry vichara in order to give these up. Cognitively, I can change my priorities so that what seems big assumes an appropriate proportion. This is how we grow. When as a child my balloon burst or deflated, it was a big problem for me. But now it does not bother me at all because I have become mature with reference to balloons. When my stock crashes, however, it is a huge problem. We even find people committing suicide or having heart attacks because of stock fluctuations. From this, it is very clear that our problem is karma. By vichara, we can surely help ourselves to grow out of it, since we have grown out of so many things. By prasada buddhi, as we have seen, our raga dveshas, otherwise called karma, can be neutralized. If that is effective, krodha and lobha are automatically taken care of because they do not arise when there is no karma. The giving up of these three is praised in the next verse.
Yeah, basically we have seen that in the second chapter itself, no, that prajahati yata kaman sarvan partha manogatan. That is the thing. Like as it raises its head, we must have that sufficient. Basically, the thing is that as he rightly said, he says, I have to give them up. But how? They are me. In the sense, they are me meaning I am nothing but a personality of kama, krodha, and lobha. So, if that is the case, if there is no space between you, the personality is made up of only kama, krodha, and lobha, where you are going to identify for that? Definitely, what we have discussed before, all these 12 chapters, you have to. There must be a space. There is a value for being a peaceful, what do you call, at all times a tranquil person. There is already a value. After all this study, we are in our life, we have a value for a peaceful, tranquil person. So once that value is there, and that the Shastra says that is your reality, you must be able to have a distance between that person and the personality which is made up of desires and anger and all that. Whatever we have equipped in terms of society also these days, with all this competitive thing and all that, we have acquired qualification, we do work, we earn money, we enjoy, we entertain, we acquire things and all. And all this, there is kama, krodha and lobha involved. But if you have a value for that basic person, which is having these things, kama, then if you are a person who is having these three things, you can always use that space to reduce. Either one of them, either you take one of them, kama, you take, or krodha, you take. Krodha, and this is anger. Okay, irrespective of whatever it is happening, I will not, I will tell in the family also, which we have discussed before, empower each other, tell them that we will not discuss anything in anger. If you are angry, one of you will tell each other, no, I think you are angry, we will discuss it later. So that you sit down. That way, we will have an opportunity to respect why this anger situation. Then it may be either karma or because of greed. Then you can cut down. Okay, we wanted to have this, we are not having it, doesn't matter. Like whatever resistance, one of you have to tell amongst yourselves and then reduce the level of your karma and greed. That way, you will find that space and all that, then you will be able to deal with it. If you are totally overwhelmed by those thoughts, then it is difficult. That's why Bhagavan himself says, it is so overwhelming, he has reduced it, the whole thing to just these three, kama, krodha and lobha. Lot of everything else is consequential of these three. One of these three, where you examine, either kama, krodha and greed would have taken you to a situation where it is becoming very, very disturbing and distressing and all that. So one of these would have been the reason. But if you are able to develop that distance, discuss amongst yourselves and reduce that need for that greed or expressing that anger, whatever it may be, somebody might have done something mischief and all that. Because of that you are angry. Doesn't matter. In that process you might lose something. Okay, doesn't matter. It's not meant for us. Let us leave it like that. Like that, you calm down the situation, develop that space, then you will be able to handle them. That's what he says. cognitively I can change my priorities. Like that, we have to work on that. That's what he is trying to say. Yeah.
Swamiji, even in this Duryodhana character, he has so much of anger, krodha, lobha, lust, all those things.
Yeah.
One thing which I'm asking, which I noticed, Swamiji, sometimes in organizations.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Swamiji, actually, in some places like I have gone, sometimes, Swamiji, the situation has been very perplexed. You feel very perplexed, demotivated, diffident, don't know what to do, but you have very less time to execute, that type of situation. Where they will scold you in front of 100 people. Very badly they will scold you, and you do not know what to do. So you will do something which is, you can't afford to tell them, okay, I will talk to you later. At the same time, you have to take the next action, because if you don't take the next action, it will cost your job. That type of situation. Second is, in many husband-wife relationships, what happens, the person who is a wife keeps on repeating the same thing again and again. உசுப்பேத்துறதுன்னு தமிழில் சொல்லுவா, உசுப்பேத்துறது அப்படின்னு. அது வந்து ஒரு மனுஷன் இருந்தால் உசுப்பேத்துறதுக்கும் ஒரு லிமிட் இருக்கும். இப்போது ஒரு குழந்தை இருக்குது, அம்மா உசுப்பேத்திகிட்டே இருக்குன்னா அந்த அம்மாவுக்கு கடைசியில் கோவம் வரும். அந்த மாதிரி கோவம் படக்கூடாதுன்னு நம்ம வந்து சங்கல்பம் எடுத்துன்னு இருந்தால் கூட சில டைம் என்ன அது சுவாமிஜி, அது ஒன்று அந்த விஷயத்தை பேசிகிட்டே இருக்கிறது, இல்லை நம்ம வேலையை பார்க்க விடாமல் டைம் வேஸ்ட் பண்ணுறது. More than anything, they keep on talking the same thing until we give them an answer, they don't leave us. In this type of situation, I do not know how not to get angry. To tell you the truth.
No, getting angry is not going to, because the idea is to trigger the anger. That is why so that you are making them what you call getting to you. That so we have to anyway avoid that. Only that how to avoid, that is the situation. That you have to avoid is very important. So how to avoid is take to some prayer or something like that, or take to something you can, if you can avoid the situation, move out or something like that. You take a help of any of the other family members. Them call you, and then you when 3 or 4 some situation, that sort of situation will not come. Okay, she will also postpone it for some other day or something like that. See, you have to find a way to avoid the situation escalating further. So that is definitely you have to do that. There is no choice. There is no choice but to de-escalate. We cannot, because the escalation will basically what you call, it makes you vulnerable. Like in the sense, you don't want to get angry, you will be angry. What is the point? You don't want to be angry anyway. So we have to avoid situation. That is why this what they very clearly Bhagavan himself has told, kama, krodha, and lobha. We should any time as it arises, there is a vulnerable situation. We should avoid that, or we escalate it further, either by resorting to prayer or what do you call, write even send a message. Let us discuss it later. I'm working on a serious thing. Send a message. Nowadays, even there between husband and wife, you can send messages. That way also you can. That way also you can avoid situation. Fortunately, technology can use it for a good purpose.
Yes.
So that way we have to avoid the situation. That way there is no choice but to avoid the situation. You have to find, devise new ways. Since depending on the situation, you have to devise new ways. Have a prayer, and you have on a desk also. You have a murti where you can do some deep breath. Ask for some water. So many things you can send a mail and then. But you draft a mail, but don't send it. Destroy it. Like don't send it. That way also you can easily manage. So all those things we have to do. There is no choice. But here only he says that these are the trigger points. These are the what you call points where you can get caught. Avoid that. That's what it is. Don't allow it, because why I am telling is, it is not possible for a person who is he himself has very clearly said, if they are me, then there is no possibility. In the sense, you are not talking to a person in one sense, he is not in his own hands, because you become the very anger personified. Then there is no choice. Not even no one can discuss that. But if you have a value for a person, a being, basic person who is basically tranquil, who is the reality of you, and you are very much aware of it, not only cognitively but also more innately because of my samskara and the way in which I have gone about reading this thing, Gita, and after all these 15 chapters, 16 chapters, that sort of a shraddha, if we don't have, then then these things are not worth discussing. He is discussing these things only with the idea that we have the shraddha. That is why we have traversed 16 chapters. So we know very well these are all the points, like where kama, krodha, and the consequential events. Because of that, some political events might happen, some personal, emotional problems. Those are all the consequence of. If you examine, it will be either kama, krodha, and greed. So first you have to identify one of them, and to get out of the situation, develop that space to not to escalate. Tell your own, like Swamiji has earlier told also, that when we are in anger, we will not discuss. Whatever, however important it may be, we will not discuss. That should be a opandam within the family. And anyone, especially younger people, can easily tell the elders, why you are in anger, I don't want to discuss with you. Because that is our agreement. So we can do that way. They take the help in the prayer, of course, and writing a mail and shouting it, go to the terrace and shout it out. All those things can be used as an alternative. But at the end of the day, you have to allow it not to escalate. Ensure that is a given. You cannot say how I am going to get angry. No, you cannot, because anger. You are in anger. Whatever you do, you are not doing. Anger does. So Swamiji has earlier discussed also. So we don't want to be sort of an animate person where anger does whatever it does, and I'm helpless. I want to be even if I am even I am in disagreement with something. Finally, I have to deliberately do, even if it is no, I am not in agreement. Still, I do. But I do means it's at least you have some responsibility. They will be able to correct it later. If anger does it, you will also regret it. Somebody else who is affected by that anger, he will also regret it. Both of you will only regret. So we should not get into that situation. That we have to find a way. We have to find that space. We have to get out of the situation, not to do anything in anger, karma, and we have to find it later. After once you get that space, that some space, then you can find out what exactly is like, where exactly I have to. Okay, because of some greed. Maybe it's not it's a developed greed over a period of time. Maybe I may have to compromise. I may not get it. Let it not make let not that greed become a need. Let it not be. Okay, let me forego. For her sake or for anyone's sake, let me forego that. Give it away. So that sort of a final decision we'll be able to take. Then the pressure point will go away, then we can carry on.
Okay.
So we have to do that. We have to be very alert to this. Alertness. The whole thing is one of alertness. The alertness comes with the space between you, the being, and the personality, which is the kama, krodha, greed. So this has to be there. Otherwise, we cannot deal with it. We can deal with it. That is a freedom. There is a basic freedom, which is eventually going to be the reality, which is going to grow on you. Because by doing these small things, the freedom, the space between you and the personality will grow. Over a period of time, you will find the benefit of it. Because you are at all times, you will be a Swami. In the sense, you will be a person who is in charge. Because there is a space between whatever you are, the basic person, and whatever personality you are. So that space should not be compromised. That is the idea. Growth in family life is, it gives you that importance for that you are what you call, you are motivated to discover that space and retain that space, that freedom as a person. So very important. And that is what is more important than any fulfillment or any achievement by kama, krodha, and greed. You can sacrifice those things, but not the space between you and the personality which is coming out with anger, krodha, and greed. Very important. We have to develop that. We have the value for it. We have to only give importance. We till now perhaps you might not have, but having seen all this, having read whatever Bhagavan has told, all these things, that space, that freedom is the most precious thing in life. That is what is eventually going to be a, what you call, giving you that the peaceful disposition at later in life, when you are not going to be doing anything. When you are not doing, your being becomes more valuable. Today you are doing so many things, so your being, you take it for granted. When you are getting older and older, when you are not able to do things, you will feel worthless if you don't understand what is the being. So the being has to be empowered. Because that is a reality, not only because of it is positive thinking, but also because it is a reality. That is what we have been seeing all along. We have seen in the last 2-3 lectures also, and whatever my own comment on the description, I have insisted on that being.
Yes, yes.
The being is a very, very profound reality. Let us keep in mind then we will be able to do it. Because that is more elevating, more uplifting compared to all these things. So once you have something more uplifting in your life, then all these things you will be able to deal with it academically. They will not become very powerful that you get overwhelmed. You can deal with them academically. That is important. Yeah.
So
One minute, Swami.
yeah. Okay.
1 minute, Swami.
Actually, we have got one client, like in our biorad company, we've got one client who is taking classes on Chanakya rules of companies and how to deal with anger, dealing with employees and everything. So he took session for 3 days last week, and my exact remembrance of what all he took was in chapter 15. So what I did on Friday, I called him and said, "Have you read Bhagavad Gita chapter 15?" His name is Manoj. So I called him and said, "Hey, did you read chapter 15 Bhagavad Gita and you're telling all this?" He said, "Boss, don't spoil my career." So,
Why?
no, because he is taking classes from the Bhagavad Gita actually for the
Oh, okay,
organization.
okay.
But he may not be
Okay.
saying it's
Yeah.
in Bhagavad Gita.
There again, there is some insecurity. Yeah. Yeah.
Swamiji, in this context, you were saying, when as you grow old, when you don't realize your real being within you, you feel worthless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. It happens for most old people.
Ah.
Why they are feeling that way?
Ah.
Because just by being, I am not, I am worthy. That is my reality. That is the purpose for which the human being has born. அப்படிங்கிறதே அவளுக்கு கடைசி காலம் வரைக்கும் once they don't know, then it is going to be a real. That is major problem of the old people. I am telling you.
Because many people know, they say, I don't know why I am living at all.
Yes, purposeless. It will become purposeless. That is where they get into all complaints. They want to draw attention like a child.
Yeah.
They want to draw attention. They keep blaming. You are not doing this. I am seeing here also in the village there is an old lady. Whenever I go and call, she will say at home, and if I don't stand and speak to her, she will feel bad about it. So because they have nothing else to look forward to in life. Now the situation we should not never get into that situation. Before that, we should be ready for it. When I am like Swamiji used to Summa Rittale Sukam. That should be our when we are old, we are what do you call? We are licensed to be a Summa Iruttale Sugam person.
To be small? No, I didn't get
என்ன
it.
சுகம் அது?
Summa Iruttale Sugam.
Summa iruttale.
சும்மா இருத்தலே சுகம். Okay, okay.
So that is Swamiji's famous one Arulurai in 1970s. All India Radio. If you can get to the archives of All India Radio in Trichy, 6 to 6:30 morning, Arulurai would have been there. Arulurai. In that, Swamiji's talk on Summa Iruttale Sugam was there for 1 year almost. Yeah. So that is the way, that is how we have to grow. That is the real growth. And that is why, as we grow older, naturally all our faculties won't have memory, who would have chanted Rudram in the younger years, but now at 18, 90, you won't even remember. Then it will be bad. I am not even able to say Bhagavan Nama. At that time, you must be at peace with yourself just by being. Adikki, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to go through this, study and develop a value. And when you deal with all these difficult situations, Kama, Krodha and all that, every time, small or big, you develop that space where you are able to, because of that space between you and the situation, you are able to deal with better. Dealing with it better is one thing, but the space that I am able to retain that space, that is that being, that is that Summa Irthal. So that should grow on you. And over a period of time, you will find that you are not, so slowly you will withdraw also. He will delegate. He will delegate better. He will not be holding on to position even though you are old. Even if somebody down you, below you makes a mistake, also you won't mind. Take care of him, tell his mistake and correct it. But still, you don't go and do it. Just because he has done a mistake, you don't go and do his job. Avoid all that. So, because you want to be moving, you delegate, and you become a peaceful person. Just be with you. See, this is a value we have to all develop. That is the only way, that is the only growth that is expected for a human being. We are inevitably doing because all our limbs have to grow, our faculty has to grow, our metaphysical understanding has to grow. Then only you will be able to understand what is the changeless being means. Even for that to understand, you must be able to be logically, in the sense you will be able to grow beyond the physics of life and see that I am I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the senses, I am the being. For that to appreciate a certain amount of mental growth is necessary. For that, you have to do all those things. That is how we grow. At 15, 20, once you do physics, mathematics, chemistry, and all that, where you are able to see beyond light. Light means not what is screen, what is movie, what we have been discussing all along. That actually what you see, an object is not an object. Object is called object because it abstracts light. All these things I have discussed before also. So we have to grow, like we will be able to see the metaphysical, the abstract reality of life, where it is not dimensions, it is dimensionless. That is my reality. For until then, you have to grow logically and all those things. But once you get to that situation where you have started exploring those areas, you must give predominance to that area, and you will find all these things which it talks about Rajasic and Tamasic gunas. The expression of those gunas will be directly in contrast with that peaceful Sattva guna. You can easily see that in your life. You don't have to ask anyone. You will know yourself. And you will definitely avoid those pitfalls. You will not get into a situation irrespective of whatever value the world gives, or you might have yourself given in your life, in your competitive life, you would have given some value for all of them. But at the end of them, it's not worth it. It's not worth to compromise your internal peace and being compared to whatever it would have given otherwise, in terms of position, power, money, society, status, etc. All those things are not worth it compared to the being you are. That is precisely the whole teaching is all about. For us to elevate ourselves, uplift ourselves from the mundane and grow into something. And the phenomenon will keep happening. In the sense, whatever happens in the society and all, you are not going to change the world. These things you will have to go through. But while going through, you will not get caught up. That is precisely what is being talked about here. It's not because each one of the situations will not going to be happening, but there is a possibility. Any one of them can crop up. But you have to avoid all this. That is why he summed up and said, Kama, Krodha, and what do you call?
Lobha.
Greed. You avoid. Lobha. You avoid. Because there are two things. Even before we have discussed that. And in one of my articles also mentioned that. See, whether Viveka comes first or Vairagya comes first. Both these two are very, very important. Viveka is the discrimination between what is real and what is not real, what is dharma versus not dharma, that Viveka. And Vairagya, if Viveka is there, I have always told you, even Shastrathile solradhu, Kaka Vishta, I was wondering, no, Kuppai used to say. In Shastram it says, Kaka Vishtak mela, whether you say Vairagyam or not,
Yes,
comes
yes.
Aprakshanubhuti. I read it. I said, my example is better. Kuppai. See, Kuppai mela Vairagya varadhukku avashyame illa. Once you know it is Kuppai, you automatically will have Vairagya. So that is how you must be able to look at all the consequences of exerting yourself on Kama, Krodha, Lobha, and all those competitiveness and all that. Once you understand the consequences are Kuppai, automatically Vairagya will be there.
Actually, Swamiji, இப்போ மகாபெரிவா இந்த தெய்வத்தின் குரலில் he says ஜுகுப்சா நீங்கள் சொன்னீங்க காக்கா விஷயம் அதில் ஸோ he says அந்த அந்த நினச்சாலே அருவருப்பாக இருக்கிறதுனால நம்ம வந்து அதை நிச்சயமாக தள்ளிடுவோம்.
Correct. Right. So that is how it is in the sense. But that sort of the perception should be very clear in the sense. So the thing is, as I was telling, Vivekatnala Vairagya or no. But initially you have to make some effort to develop Vairagya on small things. Then only Viveka itself is possible to enter. If you are so much caught up in your activity and all that, viveka is not. There is no leisure in you for you to do some viveka. Discrimination is not possible. But eventually, Swamiji, once you get into this sort of a thing, viveka has to automatically help you develop vairagya. Once you have a value for what is real in your life, what is unreal, automatically you will develop vairagya. So, hetu is viveka, hetumat is vairagya. So I feel that is very true. In my own case, honestly, I wouldn't say that I had developed vairagya first and then no. Automatically, since viveka was paramount in my life, automatically other things always took a secondary place, irrespective of what I lose, what I gain, and all that. So I have never had to exert myself to develop vairagya towards certain things which I wanted and all that, because it never seemed very important as long as my viveka was intact. So that is how we have to look at. After all this study, if we are looking at, then vairagya is not a major issue. But still, when he is talking about sattva sampat, rajasika sampat, and tamasika sampat, then these three have to be discussed, because there are people with rajasika and tamasika attitude. They will definitely be an asuri sampat will be there. We have to avoid getting into that situation by having that sattva predominant life. That is viveka only. That is what he is trying to say. Yeah.
Verse 22, freed from kama, krodha, lobha, one goes towards shreyas. Etair vimukta kaunteya tamodvare stribeinaraha आचरत्यात्मना श्रेयस ततो याति पराम गतिम. Kaunteya was son of Kunti, Arjuna, etai tribihi, by these three, tamodvaraihi, gates of darkness, muktaha naraha, a man who has been freed, atmanaha shreyas, what is good for oneself, acharati, follows, tata, because of that, param gatim, the higher end, yati reaches. Man who is free from these three gates to darkness, Kaunteya, Arjuna, follows what is good for himself. Because of that, he reaches the higher end. Naraka is called darkness, tamas here, because it is a place where viveka is obscured. So there is delusion and therefore pain. Ishavasyopanishad, it is said, those people who are self-destructive go to the worlds called Asurya, that are covered with the darkness of a blind man. It means there is a
verse number 3.
predominance.
Totally 18 verses are there in Vishwavasya. First one is, as I have discussed also before, first one is Jnanam, second one is Yoga. And then rest of the things it talks about karma, how you have to conduct yourself. That is in that context he is saying that. Yeah.
In Ishavasyopanishad, it is said, those people who are self-destructive go to the worlds called Asurya that are covered with the darkness of a blind man. It means there is a predominance of delusion and therefore no sukha. If the individual becomes a rat, what viveka will he have? The capacity to think and understand is already rudimentary, and this is what is figuratively called the darkness of a blind man. Where there is no viveka, the mind is altogether different. It has the advantage of not having the problems that you have, but then it also cannot read a line. If you throw a book in the Gita before a donkey, it will read the whole thing. It has only food value for it. Similarly, if you load a donkey with sandalwood, it carries only the load, not the sandalwood. Varasya vahinatu chandanasya. Because it has
Varasya vahina tu chandanasya. Only as a load, not as a chandanam. Something processed. Yeah.
Because it has no appreciation of its value. This is aviveka. In such births where there is such limited viveka, there is also no sukha. And kama, krodha and lobha are the gates to enter into such situations. The person Mara, discussed in this verse, is totally free with reference to these three gates to pain. Mara means a human being by definition. He is the one who does not get destroyed Na riyate iti naraha. The very
This we have
defi-
discussed before also.
Riyate.
Yeah.
na
Riyate
riyate iti naraha. The very definition tells you that he is the imperishable Atma. This Nara, if he is not assailed by the Kama, Krodha and Lobha, is able to use his Viveka and therefore lives a life of proper conduct. That is, lives a life that will lead him to this ultimate good. Shreyo Margam Acharati. In contrast to the path of self-destruction, Atmanaha Nashanam
Atmanaha Nashanam.
of the
Of the
previous
previous
verse, this person follows a course of action that is good for oneself. Atmanaha Shreyas Acharati. Here the word Shreyas means the path of Shreyas. Shreyo Marga, only then will it connect with the word Acharati.
Yeah, basically, Arjuna asked, no, Shreyo Margam. Originally in the second chapter itself, he asked, first time when he asked Bhagavan, he said, show me Shreyas. So, and also here, notably, we have to understand that even for being a human being, we must have this, the sense, very definition is that we must be able to see what is never destroyed within us. We must be able to identify that being which is not destroyed, meaning which is not changing. Anything changing will get destroyed. Anything began will get perished. So, in all of us, Nara, person, human being, there is something within us which is not changing, which is not born or which is not gone. So, this has to be identified. Then only you can call yourself a Nara. Forget understanding that reality and being that the final Shreyas. Even for calling ourselves a Nara, we must be able to have a basic value that the basic person in me is the changeless. So once you identify that, then you won't identify yourself with what is changing. What is changing? Body, mind, senses, emotions, activities, money, wealth, position, power, everything is changing. So we will not identify ourselves. They will be there in our life, but we will not identify ourselves because we identify with the basic person who is changeless. Okay, you may not understand what is the changeless person being. That is what the whole Shastra is all about. Once we understand and the value and understanding grows on us, then all other things will become occupied. So automatically. But till that time, you must have the value, retain that basic value. That in me there is a person who is changeless. I am looking for that. I want to be like that. That value has to be retained. Then only we will progress in this whole study. So that Nara is a very important word. Nara, all of us know. Nara. We call ourselves Nara. We pride ourselves in calling ourselves Nara. But at least this much understanding about what is Nara should be very ingrained in our psyche. That we should not lose sight of it at any point in time, whatever be the situation in life. Yeah.
Here the word Shreyas means the path of Shreyas. Shreyo Marga, only then will it connect with the verb Acharati. This is possible because he is free from the inhibiting factors of Kama, Krodha and Lobha that previously impelled him to do wrong actions. Which one is dissipating all one's... When one is dissipating all one's energies through these three, what viveka can he have? He has no time to think properly. Even to begin to free oneself from Kama, Krodha and Lobha, one must have some Viveka.
That is what I was telling. See, the Viveka is first. Then only, Swamiji always insists on that. Viveka is the birthright. We cannot go by and then look for Vairagya. It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Then once the process has begun, he does not have to be thought it is good for him because he knows enjoys an inner leisure that was previously denied to him. All because of Viveka. To have Kama, Krodha and Lobha is very natural. Every child is in touch with all of them. To be free of them, however, requires a lot of Viveka. With sufficient Viveka, a person can pursue what is good, Shreyas for him, whether it be Artha, Kama, Dharma or Moksha. All are good for him, no doubt, but the real Shreyas is Moksha. Security Artha, for example, is not going to be found in gaining and protecting things that will inevitably be lost. The real security is not being afraid of anything, and that is only moksha. Similarly, if we analyze the pursuits of karma and dharma, Kama and dharma, we see that they are really fulfilled only in moksha. It is the real Purushartha that is behind every pursuit.
we have discussed also before. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. That means the ultimate kama is a situation in life where I am pleased. My pleased being is not disturbed. That is our ultimate. But we think that by doing this, by acquiring this, by pleasure, we will be pleased. No. Basically, you are a pleased person. Anything you want disturbs your peace, so you want to fulfill that want so that you can be free of that lack. So the lack we cultivate, and then you want to be free of that lack. Basically, originally you are free of lack. That is your reality. So that we have to have a value for. Then we will not go in for kama and adharma and all that. Yeah.
Previously, Kama, Krodha and Lobha were shackling him so much that he could not pursue any Purushartha successfully. When his hands are shackled, how can he even scratch himself properly? But now he is free, Vimukta, and is able to follow proper conduct. Because of that, he gains the most desirable end, Yati Paramgatim, which Agara says can even be moksha. Once he is not bound by karma, krodha and lobha, kama. Once he is not bound by kama, krodha and lobha, if he is able to discern that what he is seeking is moksha, he can certainly accomplish that. If however he is not able to get mastery over these three, they being undesirable ends. What is the cause for his giving up these three and all the asuri sampath and following what is good for himself, the path of dharma and moksha? The next verse tells us that Shastra indicates what is to be done and what is not to be done, what is for one's own good, shreyas, and what will bring suffering, dukkha, and it is also the means for moksha. The next verse also talks about what happens if one does not look to the Shastra for these matters.
See, in this particular situation, Shastra, there are two meanings. One is, Shastra is Sasanat Shastram. Hence, in Karma Kanda, Sasana meaning it gives us mandates, rules and rituals for us to achieve whatever our Artha Kama ends are. And this is legitimate Artha Kama ends, even the rituals and all our Laukika activities are meant for Artha and Kama. That is mandated. That mandate is Dharma matrix. Please do unto others as you would like others. That is for Laukika. As far as Vedika is concerned, do whatever is the Veda has told you. The rituals, whatever they have told you. So, that is called Sasana Shastram. Sasana meaning, we have even Ayappa Ayyarar is also called Sasana Karta. Sasana Karta means one who controls the niyati, the order of orders. Then if you do this, you will get this. If you do this, you will get that. So all the physical order, chemical order, biological order, psychological order, physiological, all orders, they are called Sasana. That is, all of us know that Sasana's Karta is Ishvara. The second thing is, that is the Karma Kanda. The second meaning of Shastra is Samshanat Shastra. Samshanat meaning by that which gives you understanding, that which gives you, reveals the reality of life. It is called Samshanat Shastram. So Samshanat Shastram is Jnana Kanda. Sasanat Shastram is called Karma Kanda. So Shastra, when we are talking about Shastra, it talks about the Samshanat, understanding of life. Not by doing this I will get this, by doing this I will get this, this karma I will do this. That is both Laukika and karma and Vedic karma. Shastra does not even mandate. But if it says, if you want Surga, you do this yajna. If you want Putra, you do this yajna. Everything it says, if you want. It doesn't say you should want. We develop, okay, it keeps you going. Till the time you come to the jnana, it keeps you going relatively peacefully. Okay, for that also it develops various karmas for you to achieve various ends. But we are not, when we come to Shastra, when it comes to Gita or Upanishads and all that, we are looking at Samshanat Shastram, understanding of life through Shastra. That is what we are looking at. So when we say one does not look to Shastra for these matters, meaning for Artha Kama purpose, we are not looking at. That is a different Karma Kanda. That we are already, anyway we are living that way, but we are beyond that, we are looking for some peace. That is why we have come to Shastra, Gita Shastra. So that we have to look at.
Verse 23. One who casts away the injunctions of the Shastra gains no Purushartha. Shastra vidhi mukujya vartate kamakarataha nasa siddhi vapnoti nasudam na param gatim. The one who Shastra, the injunctions of Shastra, Utsrijya, casting away. Kama karataha, being impelled with binding desire. Vartate, engages. Saha, he. Siddhim, the accomplishment of maturity. Na avapnoti, does not gain. Na sukham, nor happiness. Na param gatim, not a higher end. The one who being impelled by binding desire engages oneself casting away the injunctions of the Shastra, gains neither maturity nor happiness, here much less a higher end. This is a person who is completely given to binding desires, and because of that, kama karataha, he lives his life, vartate, totally committed to their fulfillment, but without regard for the injunction, Vidhi of Shastra. Shastra here means the Veda, our source of knowledge of what is to be done and what is not to be done. It contains both positive statements of what to do and negative ones of what to avoid. These are the vidhis. Even though we have innate common sense knowledge of universal do's and don'ts, we do not know all the consequences involved in heeding or ignoring our common sense norms of behavior. Shastra becomes very important here in letting us know the consequences of our actions. The perpetrator does not
Even if a wrong action.
even if a wrong action.
Because it talks about the future. You may not get immediate. If you do a wrong action, today you may feel like you are getting away with it. Nobody has noticed and I have 1 hour what I wanted. But it'll have its consequence at a later date. That's what we are talking about in terms of Shastra.
Even if a wrong action is not detected or punished here, the perpetrator does not escape the law of karma. So says the Shastra. Here we have a person who has cast away the dictates of Shastra and is driven purely by his karma. He does not bring siddhi, kama na siddhim avapnoti. Siddhi here, Shankara says, is fitness for the pursuit of what is good for a person. Purushartha yogyata. And maturity. The first accomplishment for a human being is the capacity to take proper care of himself. The second is education in which he acquires an intellectual discipline and certain emotional discipline. This is not an ordinary thing. If you have survived teenage without damage, that is one of the greatest things you can ever accomplish in life.
Yeah.
So such a difficult age. If you make proper use of it, you can gain the capacity to pursue any gains considered good for a person, artha, kama, dharma or moksha. For pursuing any purushartha, maturity is necessary. If you disregard the injunctions of Shastra, it is just not possible to gain this maturity, and when there is no maturity, it is not possible to have any worthwhile pursuit or accomplishment in life. But this is so, there is not going to be any happiness, na sukham, in this life. To have sukha, you have to be mature, otherwise any small thing will upset you. Nor only one will there be no sukha in this world. You will not gain a better end, paragati,
Whether it is heaven or moksha.
moksha.
Whether it is heaven or moksha, because heaven means karma kanda, moksha means jnana kanda. Either way, either shastra you must follow at least the basic properly without compromising the matrix of dharma. Then only paragati is possible, whether it is heaven or moksha. Yeah.
In youth, all your faculties are at their peak. It is a time when you can learn and remember so well. Once it is gone, you do not get it back. So it is important to make proper use of it. Later, you will be busy earning and doing 100 different things. If you dissipate your energies in sense pursuits at this time, later, all you will remember is your hurt and disappointments, and feel that you have accomplished nothing. By the time you reach your 40s, you will feel that you are finished. Without gaining intellectual and emotional maturity, the very sukha that you are so assiduously pursuing is denied. What a bad bargain! Therefore, Gitacharya wants us to gain mastery over these three asuri tendencies, kama, krodha, lobha, which are in everybody's heart in different degrees, not only in those of the asuras.
Yeah, we will see balance. I think the last verse, and then we will move into the next chapter is full of Shraddha, which Prashant was asking. Lot of things are there.
Sure.
Shraddha Traya Vibhaga. How, even though you have Shraddha, how different it can be. What real Shraddha is called. That we will discuss. The entire 17th chapter is on Shraddha. That much of importance our Shastra gives on Shraddha. Shraddha, as I have told you, is not just what you call faith. It is having the Shraddha in the reality, having the Shraddha in the teacher and the teaching, that this is what, the sense, Shraddha, Swamiji says, the Shraddha is such, without that he will not stop. Come what may, he want to gain this understanding. That is the ultimate Shraddha. And that is what will be discussed in the entire 17th chapter. So we will see that later.
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्।